A novel concept made its appearance in Congress this month: Unborn Child Support. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is another Declaration of Truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. A week and a half ago, 9 senators and 1 representative addressed a problem that the anti-life side has long accused the pro-life side of neglecting completely. Who, the anti-life people ask, pays child support to a woman pregnant out of wedlock? Now, these 10 Republicans have an answer. We're going to talk about that answer and why their opponents aren't comfortable with it. Before I get into detail, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views, link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I've chosen tonight. Note the legend: not your body, not your choice. Now, happily, this is not primarily about ending a pregnancy. This is about supporting a woman financially during a pregnancy. Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota introduced his Unborn Child Support Act. That's S4512, and I have a link to it in the description. Senator Cramer introduced this on July 13th. Reportage on the bill comes from American Action News, CBS News, and WAFB TV, Channel 9, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That issue is Title 42, United States Code, Section 654. And I have a link to that also in the description. This section already provides for state plans for child support. The Unborn Child Support Act inserts certain phrases and changes certain punctuations to make unborn children eligible also. The most salient addition is a new paragraph 35 requiring a state to, and I quote, establish and enforce child support obligations of the biological father of an unborn child and subsequent to the birth of the child to the mother of such child. That last is subject to the consent and consultation of the child's mother. It also makes unborn child support payments retroactive to the month of conception, if the mother wants them. Any such payments would be by the order of a court. Then the bill adds this very salient definition, and I quote, for purposes of paragraphs 4 and 35, the term unborn child means a member of the species Homo sapiens at any stage of development who is carried in the womb. Unquote. Now, Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana introduced the bill in the House. And when he did, he said, and again I quote, life begins at conception. And this bill is a straightforward first step toward updating our federal laws to reflect that fact. We are hopeful that Democrats will join this bicameral effort to provide mothers with child support payments while their child is in the womb, unquote, Representative Johnson. Now, for his part, Senator Cramer offered these remarks, and I quote, caring for the well-being of our children begins long before a baby is born. It begins at the first moment of life, conception. And fathers have obligations, financial and otherwise, during pregnancy. Mothers should be able to access child support payments as soon as she is supporting a child. Our bill makes this possible, unquote, Senator Cramer. Concerned Women for America announced their support for the Unborn Child Support Act. Petty Nance, the head of CWA, said this, at Concerned Women for America, we believe that life begins at conception, and we are proud to support the Unborn Child Support Act. This legislation recognizes the sanctity of human life and encourages mothers to choose life by allowing women to receive child support while pregnant. We must continue to fight to protect the dignity of every human being and ensure that we support mothers in the process, unquote, Petty Nance. Now, Who wouldn't support an unborn child? Who indeed? But some of the very people complaining the loudest that young studs sowing their wild oats take advantage of women and won't pay them child support still find fault with this bill. Now, understand this. Our society does have a problem with young studs sowing their wild oats. This bill addresses that. But here's something you're going to find hard to believe. There are people out there, including women, who don't want to address this problem. Before I give you the shocking example, I do want to shout out to another sponsor, BitNext. This is your replacement for Zoom, Slack, the Google G Suite, Microsoft Office 365, Dropbox, WeTransfer, and Chili Piper, among others. Unlike any of them, BitNext protects your content and conversations so well, even the administrators can't see it. So this is your channel for secure comms, conferencing, cloud storage, and file sharing. Best of all, everything is back-end. You don't even need client software. If you have a browser, you can use BitNext. Follow the link, give them a try. 28 days free of charge. Can't beat that with a stick. Now then, here is the example. Laurie Bertram Roberts helped found something called the Mississippi Reproductive Freedom Fund. Her issue is with efforts to define an unborn child as a person under the law or Constitution. Shortly after the introduction of the Unborn Child Support Act, she said this to the Mississippi Free Press, quote, "This is not the first time they've tried to insert this personhood language into a national bill. And see, the way they're doing it is very sneaky. The way they're doing it is under the guise of, oh, look, doesn't this make sense? Because this is one of those arguments that has been coming from people who actually support, well, the pregnancy-ending word. Which is why I tell people not to make these arguments, even in jest. Like, if you all want to make us have babies, start child support at the moment of conception." Unquote, Laurie Bertram Roberts. I mean, can you believe this? So now to address the one remaining legitimate issue about men's conduct in this regard is to drive an entering wedge. Therefore, a Laurie Bertram Roberts would rather not have child support available so that she can insist that a person isn't a person. Now, do these people want help or don't they? Or would they rather complain about the inconvenience of life? In fact, the word person does not appear in the Unborn Child Support Act, but the word child does. And the bill defines an unborn child unmistakably as an entity that comes into being at conception. Now, about the complaints against the bill, the less said the better, because the complaints are frankly illogical. If, for example, you can't get blood out of a turnip, why consort with the turnip? But one observation that these complainants make is actually a good thing, whether the complainants think so or not. Will bills like this make fathers and mothers connect to one another in ways they aren't connecting today? Maybe. Well, how can that be anything but good for the children involved and their parents and civilization as a whole? A Bucknell Institute survey shows that something like the Unborn Child Support Act would enjoy widespread support. It might not have majority support, but it would come close. In fact, opposition always runs lower than support in any subdivision of the survey sample. That includes men versus women, pro-life versus anti-life, and so on. And it might surprise you, the men don't want to support it, and I think they should. I urge all men to get behind a measure like this and to take responsibility for the intimate relations in which they engage. Hookup culture was never pro-civilizational, and it's high time men and women both walked away from it. Now that's part of treating a person as a person, no matter how small. Link in the description of the article. to S4512, to Title 42 U.S. Code Section 654, and to conservative views and views. I have another link to the awesome online store and to BitNext, as I also mentioned. And if you like what you've heard, you can like this video. On the end screen, I'm going to put in the subscribe link and also a link to my pro-life playlist and to my earlier video about how the anti-life side has reached its end game. This is Terry A. Hurlbut, delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.